Hello and welcome to St. Thomas Aquinas for everyone. My name is Dave Palmer and thank you so much for joining me for these videos, these lessons as we move through the Summa Theologia. I hope you're enjoying it. Be sure to like the video and also comment, ask questions. Let's get some dialogue going so we can discuss these things. All right, we have now completed the 5 proofs for the existence of God. I hope you have them memorized, right? Okay, from motion, from cause, necessity and possibility, from perfection, and from intelligence or governance of the world. Okay, you should be able to do that. Should be able to rattle them off that quickly if you can. We are now going to move into the attributes of God, and Thomas is going to point out 7 main attributes, and then also some of the operations of God that we'll get into as well. This is a very neat part of the Summa because, as I've mentioned a couple of times, if our goal and our purpose in life is to come to know God and to spend eternity with God, and that's our whole life purpose, well, we need to know exactly to whom it is that we are seeking to live our life with, right? And so that's what we're going to do for the next 7 lessons or so, is learn, what is God, which is an interesting concept because when you think of God, if I were to ask you this question, who is God, as opposed to what is God? Is it the same question or is it different? Okay, you might say, who is God? Well, Jesus Christ is God. What is God? Well, what God starts talking about his attributes, not just who he is, but what he is. For example, if I were to say, as an example here, who is this? You would say, well, that is Mother Teresa or Saint Mother Teresa, because she has been canonized in the Catholic Church, right? Well, if I said, what is this? That's a totally different question. You'd say, well, what it is, it's a woman. You might say it's a saint, it's a human being, it's an intellectual creature. There's a lot of different ways you can answer that, but who it is and what it is are definitely different questions. So as we now begin the attributes of God, we are going to begin with one that I find very ironic because the first attribute of God that we're going to talk about is his simplicity. And I find God's simplicity to be the most complicated of his qualities to explain. It's very complicated, it really is. And so don't get too concerned if this doesn't all make sense to you right off the bat. I've been studying this for a long time, and I don't fully, entirely, 100% understand it exactly. But I'm just going to give you the principles here, and then you can take with it and just take it and see what, how much of it makes sense to you, okay? So God is simple. Now, this is the first part of God's simplicity, is that he does not have a body and he has no matter and form, right? There's no physical quality of God. We have bodies, but you got to admit, our bodies complicate things. They get aches and sores and pains and headaches, and we get tired, and the body's great, and that's certainly it would be a heresy to say the body is evil, but the body does complicate us. God doesn't have a body, doesn't have matter and form, which leads me into this. I'm not going to get too much into this, but as we get into Greek philosophy, do you understand the difference between Plato and Aristotle? They lived hundreds of years before Jesus. Plato, when it came to matter and form, the matter is the physical part, the form is basically what something is. It's related to essence. All right? Plato believed the matter and the form were separated. So when you see something physically, you're only seeing the matter. You're not really seeing a composite of matter and form together. Aristotle came along, he was a student of Plato, and said, no, they're together. They're a composite. The matter and the form are together. I know that may not make perfect sense. Don't worry about it. We're going to be talking about this a lot, and it'll make more sense as we go along, but I don't want to get too bogged down in it now, because I only got 8 minutes, right? I only have a brief amount of time. Okay, so whether God is the same as his essence and his nature. What is your essence? What is my essence? Well, we are intellectual creatures. We're human beings, right? We're rational creatures. That's what we are. Our nature adds operation, the kind of things we do, right? We walk and we sleep and we laugh and we play and we work and we read. That has to do with nature, the kind of things that we do. With God, it's exactly the same. Okay, he is his essence, he is his nature, and this makes him more simple, even though it's really hard to explain and maybe hard for you to understand. All right, what's the essence of these two creatures? Well, one is a bird, and that's its essence, and that should conjure up an idea of what a bird is to you. And one's a cat. Okay, no big surprises here. That's the essence, birdness, catness. The nature is that one of them has a nature that it can fly. Okay, which one? One of them has a nature that it purrs or it meows, right? Or it stalks. And so the natures of these two creatures are very different, and of course the essence is different as well. Now we go on now, part 1, question 3, article 3, whether God is the same as his essence or nature. And Thomas says, individual man, which is called a suppositum, an individual, I'm different than you, even though we share human nature, right? We even have the same essence in a sense, that we're rational creatures. But our suppositum is different, because this is my suppositum and you have your suppositum. It's the individual creature, right? And that includes accidents, which are not part of our essence or our human nature, like hair or I'm 5'8". That's an accident. That's not integral to who I am as a human being, right? Humanity and a man are not wholly identical. I am not humanity. You are not humanity. We share humanity, and it's a part of it. It's kind of our essence of what we are. We're human beings, right? But with God, God and godness are the same thing. And I know many of you are saying, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Why did I ever get into studying the Summa? Don't worry, okay? This is just an introduction to it, and it's going to make more sense as you go along. Now I'm going to confuse you even more, because Thomas asks in article number 4 whether the essence and existence in God are the same thing. Think about that. In these pictures here, you see a man eating, a woman sleeping, a man laughing, 3 people sharing communion and talking, okay? This is all part of our nature. And clearly, all these people exist because they're able to carry out functions of humanity, right? All right, so they do exist. But their existence is separate from who they are. They are not existence, just like they're not humanity, all right? With us, these are all different things because we're complicated. We're not simple like God is. With God, his godness and his existence are the same thing, okay? Let that sink in for a little while. All right, so here we are. Explaining the simplicity of God. God has no parts, no genus, no species. His essence and his existence and his nature and his suppositum, yes, God does have a suppositum, are all the same thing, okay? It's perfectly simple, even though it's hard for us to kind of get our heads around. Composites are posterior to their parts, but God is first being. We're a composite of matter and form, okay? Everything this coaster is matter and form, right? It's composite. It has a physical quality. God does not have any of that. Composites have a cause, but God doesn't. Okay, there's no potentiality in God. Okay, that means the potential to change, the potential to be moved or to be altered in any way. God doesn't have any of that. He's pure act. Okay, the more action, the less potentiality you have. Okay, I can just imagine some of your faces as you're saying, "Oh, okay, so this is this is God's simplicity." Now it all makes sense. All right. So for now, just suffice it to say, God is simple, and you know more about God's simplicity now than you did 8 minutes ago. I promise you. Just let it sink in, and just realize that his essence and his existence, his suppositum, his nature, all the same thing. Okay, is that clear? All right, so I hope you're enjoying this. Thank you for watching, if you're still watching, and be sure to comment below and let me know how it's going. Are you understanding this? Did simplicity make sense in regard to God and who he is? What is God is what we're talking about. There are a number of more attributes. They do get easier from here on out. So I'll see you tomorrow for the next St. Thomas Aquinas for everyone. My name is Dave Palmer. God bless you.